I'm Jason Schwartz. This is Tamara Paltin. She's running for mayor of Maui in Hawaii. And you at Apple, we love you. And you in Maui County, we love you. Thank you. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
You know, we're doing these all on iPhones. All of you are reporters. All of you can do shows, whether candidates or life and issues. We're in a new time and a new age. That's why Akaku, Maui Community Television, is Akaku Maui Community Media. Things are really changing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point. You know, part of my campaign platform is leadership for the 21st century. And this type of technology is really what it's all about, you know, giving the power back to the masses, allowing for mass collaboration. It's practical, it's pervasive, it's possible. And I feel that, you know, the administration nowadays is not taking advantage of all the advances that we have in technology and utilizing it for the best good for the people, the residents that live here, and putting it to use to really empower, educate, and engage the people of Maui County.
Well, this is a big race. This is not council, one of 9, legislative. This is running Maui County. And some people said to me, well, Arakawa, the guy that's mayor now, has been there a while and hasn't really gotten the job done, doesn't really show he's doing anything in a different way. And some people say he's doing a great job, you know, all kinds of things.
Well,
what made you run for mayor? What gave you the thought that you wanted to step in there and do something different?
Well, the main thing is I've been a county employee in the public safety related field for the past 4 administrations, and every 4-year cycle you get a new administration. And being a frontline employee in a public safety related field, I really took notice of the changes that we have with each administration. Not only am I a county worker, I'm also the president and executive director of a nonprofit who's done a lot of work with the county, lobbying for open space at Honolulu. And so I've gotten to get a feel of the county from the inside and outside, working within and without the county. And so I really take notice of the different styles of administrations between Apana, then Arakawa, Tavares, Arakawa again. And I always try to compare and contrast, you know, like what one mayor has done that's good, and then also what they have done that I don't quite agree with. And I think, you know, from that kind of experience, it kind of solidified my platform and what I feel is the mayor's top priorities as an office. And I've kind of broken it down to the top 3 important things that a mayor's responsibility includes. And the first one would be creating a realistic budget proposal that is balanced with all the needs of the community at large and all the resources. And that's something that I don't think has been done, especially in this last budget. I mean, I'm glad with what came out for the most part, but it's due largely in part to the council, the budget chair, Mike White, and the council spending a lot of hours in reconciling the mayor's budget proposal with their final output. So as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the first responsibilities of the office of mayor. The second one is appointing qualified directors and appointed positions, executive staff, cabinet members, and regardless of the administrations, there's always some people that you wonder why they got appointed. And then you look at the campaign spending reports and you can put 2 and 2 together. I mean, I'm not saying that every one of this administration's directors is not qualified or not the right fit, but there are some.
Things get to be, one of the council people told me, they see things wrong in administrative departments and they've had challenge because they step over the line. They are legal people, not administration, and they can't tell them what to do. And yet there are things that are, you know, people come and go in the council, and these people are tenured in and keep this, I want to say, bureaucracy regime in status quo without doing something.
Well, that's part of the reason that I decided to run for mayor is because, these appointed positions, there's probably about 60, the directors, deputy directors, administrative staff, and things like that. And I feel that if you pick 60 of the hardest workers, most qualified people, really in the know and really care about the community, and not because they donated money or helped out with your campaign, we would be a lot better off than what we are today. And that's not to say that all of the mayor's appointed positions are like that, but there is quite a number, you know?
I don't know because I haven't been in this government ever, but isn't a director's main thing to create a theme and a kind of a feeling in their department? Do they run their own departments, or are they all sort of part of a larger bureaucracy where they're driven by a budget?
Well, a lot of them, the majority, not all of the directors, but a lot of them are appointed and serve at the pleasure of the mayor. So the mayor, in my opinion, actually creates the theme. And if these directors, they might have good ideas and they might disagree with the mayor, but at the end of the day, if they come out publicly against the mayor can say, you know what, thank you for your service. It's not working out.
Because they're appointed rather than...
They serve at the pleasure of the mayor. Not all of them, like the fire chief and the personnel director, police chief, those have commissions that oversee them. So it's not 100% the mayor's appoints all these people, but a great majority of the positions, like the water director, environmental management, parks and recreation, things like that. And so, part of my platform as well has been to not take big money, because that's a link that I've seen recurring throughout the various administrations. Who gives $4,000? Oh, the managing director gives $4,000, or things like that. So my commitment is to not take more than $100 per person or entity in campaign donations for this election cycle. It's kind of a new thing to do. I don't know too many people that are doing it, but I'm new to politics, and I want the people to know that I'm not being bought. I'm going to make decisions that I think are fair. I'm going to choose appointed positions that I think are the best qualified and the best fit, and I hope that if I were elected, I get a lot of qualified applicants to fill those positions, and people that truly care about Maui know a lot about the position that they're applying for, and we can move forward together in a way that is more cohesive, more holistic than what is currently being done. Every time I hear of like a new division, I kind of cringe, because like a director of sustainability or a division of sustainability, it takes away from the holistic view. I don't want one person to focus on sustainability. I want all of us to incorporate that into our day-to-day practices. Maybe somebody can head it up, like an environmental coordinator, but I think each director should have that in the back of their mind. Yeah, so I kind of cringe when people say they want a division of aquatics, or a specific environmental coordinator, or a sustainability manager, because I think that sustainability is such an important factor living in these island counties, where not just one person can think about it and be separate from everybody else. Each director should be having a thought to sustainability within their own department, and come together and say, this is what I'm doing in my department for sustainability. What are you doing in your department for sustainability? Is there things that we have in common? Can we learn from each other? Can we, what did you do that didn't work so well, so I don't try that in my department? Or maybe it could work in my department because of the problem that you ran into. I don't have that issue in my department. So I think, by appointing one person to be, say, the environmental coordinator, it kind of gives the impression of alleviating that concern from all the rest of the appointed people. Well, that guy's the environmental coordinator, so I don't need to worry about environmental stuff. He got it under control. When in reality, all of us should be concerned about environmental factors.
Homelessness is a current issue. It's not inside the government, but it surely is an impact. Something's going on here.
Well, so part of what I was saying about 21st century leadership is I don't feel that it's so much gonna be in the future from the top down as from the bottom up. And by that I mean, I feel a lot of the government's role is to build up and empower communities to solve their own problems. And not saying that, oh, it's your problem, you fix it, but saying that the government has the resources, and for us to facilitate or make it easier for people to take control of their own community, and they set the rules as to what they want to see happen. If they don't want homelessness in their area, then what should they do about it? What can my office as the mayor or as the county government, the state, whatever capacity that I'm serving the people in, what is it that I can do to help you achieve your overall vision? I think a lot of the problems with the past 4 administrations going back and forth and things like that is people come in with a set agenda, and during election time it's all about what the people want. Then once the person gets into office, their true agenda comes out, and it's not necessarily what the people want, it's what they get. And so I think, I've been going to community association meetings around the island and trying to feel what each community, their priorities are, and I'm really impressed with the various community associations that they care, that they take the time out of their lives to show up. And I think the people that know the best what the solutions are the people of the community. I don't think it's the county's place to come in and say, okay, homelessness is your problem, this is how we're going to fix it. It's more like, homelessness is a problem. Here are some resources that we have, and here are some challenges that we have, and maybe make some suggestions. But ultimately, the easiest way to get it done is by asking the community what they feel would work in their particular area.
That's an interesting perspective. I wonder how many of the communities, from the reaction I see to homeless people and stuff, most communities try to figure out how to sweep them away from their property and get them away and make sure they don't use resources they have. It's extraordinary, I think, but I don't think that the communities here have a way to be in touch. There are so many administrative things that are related to homelessness that do not really communicate well. We're sitting here on land. This is a beautiful spot in Olawalo. I couldn't believe it sounds like construction. We're in Olawalo. This is a beautiful property. Thank you. The owner of this property is someone who's actually been aware of homelessness and has made thoughts and recommendations. Some are thought of in different.
Some of his ideas were great, as well as there's been other people that I've seen on social media with ideas and that are totally out of the box and I think could work. And this idea of a transitional homeless camp, great idea. Maybe location was not right, and a lot of these controversial ideas, they always, if they're controversial, there's something good about them and something bad about them, so, or that people don't like about them. So I think the key is, to capitalize on what people like about it and try to lessen what people don't like about it, or find an alternative way to do it on the part that people don't like about it. So like a homeless transitional camping area, if people don't want it in their area, let's look all over Maui County and what would be an appropriate location, and then have people from the different greater access. I think for the homelessness challenge on Maui County, we need to, if we get them into an area where they have shelter and their needs are basically met, I think the next step would be to provide economic training or economic assistance to help people pull themselves out of it. If there's a problem with drugs, we need to make public access to drug rehabilitation more plentiful for these people, or if there's a mental health issue, make public access to mental health more accessible to this segment of the population.
May I ask, I'm just curious, do you know any people that are homeless that were your friends or family? The reason I'm asking, probably not. I can tell you, I've been around homelessness from people I know, and no drug problems, no alcohol problems. Problems is economics, that private citizens push things to the curb and think that the government is handling them, and they don't remember that golden rule. Here's someone that really needs help, and it's gotten worse. And the medical clinics are overworked at state. You know, it's like there's an overflow of people that don't have drug and alcohol problems that I'm very concerned about.
We've had family move in with us for a short time, and they're a family, and they're moving from family to family. So I don't know if that constitutes as homeless, as they're not out on the street now. I spoke with somebody in the planning department once about, you know, the way zoning works and how it's not set up really to accommodate folks. You know, if you want to build a cottage on your property, or if you want to rent out a room or make a separate entrance, it's pretty difficult to do that. And then when people do, they see the income that can be made from transient vacation rentals and things like that. So I think as far as the rental market out there, that's a big obstacle to overcome. Is a lot of people that have space that they would rent are finding it more profitable to turn it into a $500 a night place instead of a $500 a month place. And I don't know if I don't think the mayor is directly in charge of zoning, but it would have to be a joint effort with the council. You know, anything big like that you want to change, you need to work hand in hand with the council, because they pass the legislation and things like that. But it could be as simple as providing them a snapshot of what's going on and what could be going on. A lot of the housing, affordable housing that I see being developed, most people that I know that don't own a house and are homeless in that they are staying with friends or family, or sleeping down the beach, or living in a shelter, would not be able to afford it. So that isn't a solution to the homelessness problem.
Like I say, how do you define homeless even is a big issue, and how to help. I think that it's nice to hear that as a new mayor you're open and listening. I'm sure our present mayor is much listening, but
another
somehow.
thing too, you know, with zoning, I've been looking into like tiny houses, yurts, and things like that, where, you know, it's just a shelter that people can call their own. And possibly if you have a big open space and you can build so many tiny houses, it would be
You wouldn't be surprised. I know 10 or more places that have that right now here out of Maui. It's just they're not legal.
Yeah. So I mean, if we're in a crisis, we gotta look at those things. You know, is it better to have them like just camping out in our public parks, or is it better to, you know, create a situation where people can use that as getting a leg up? And another thing too is, you know, affordable housing. I would like to see affordable housing in perpetuity. You know, I think right now there's a 10 or 25 year statute before people can sell it at market value. And I don't see how that helps the homelessness or affordable housing crisis. It gives somebody an affordable house for 10 to 25 years, and then it turns into a market value house. So we're continually having to build more affordable housing, because what was once affordable housing after 10 or 20 years is no longer affordable housing. You know, one thing that brings me to my point of when I had the three main responsibilities of mayor, and it kind of circles around in a and roundabout way. But the third responsibility of the mayor that I feel is managing the 2,000 plus county workers. And like I stated before, the top-down hierarchy is not effective. And what I would have loved to see one time would be having a director come in and going to the front lines and asking, what are the long-term problems that haven't been solved, administration to administration? Because a lot of the county workers that have been working 10 or 20 years know what the problems are and might even have ideas or solutions in mind, but nobody ever asks the front line.
That's a great idea. And maybe they're afraid. Some of that, huh?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my view, people that work the front lines, that are out and about in the community, face to face to the homeless and things like that, might have great ideas and great suggestions, and they have a more intimate knowledge of the challenges faced by homelessness. And so empowering the county workers to have a say in the county that they live and work in is really the third most responsible, or
That's another great one.
Yeah.
That one really empowers all the people in the county to put their heart into it. That's really great.
I mean, I teach the junior lifeguard program, and this last summer I had the opportunity to go to all the different districts. Usually I work in the west side, and I had an opportunity to go to North Shore and work with those kids over there, go to South Shore, go to the west side, and not regularly working at the North Shore, the South Shore. I got to see firsthand, up close and personal, the situation with homelessness in the parks. And I spoke to one of the lifeguards at Kanaha, and he had great ideas about homelessness. You know, like Kanaha has a lot of people camping out in their parks, and he didn't know too much about the rules and things like that, but he had an idea about the old Maui college dorms, and maybe like making that into a shelter for people where they could access resources and be it transitional or whatever, and then they can also do community work in exchange for them living at that resource. And I mean, being a lifeguard presently, I don't have the resources to look into that as a possibility, but just the fact that county workers and people out there are thinking along those lines, to me is very hopeful. If I should be elected, that's the type of brainstorming that I would really encourage, you know, because I'm not as familiar with Kanaha and the possible solutions as the people that live and work there every day. I don't know if it's a surprise or not, but the lifeguards know a lot about the regular homelessness, and some people have compassion and some people don't, or they don't know what they can do or things like that. But I think, you know, if you're talking about homelessness, it's really a ground level thing. It's not something that someone high up as a director or in an office can address, because they're not on the ground and they're not so familiar with the needs and the challenges. So it's really something that needs to be addressed holistically, needs to be addressed from people on the ground, offering solutions up to people with the know-how or the means to implement them and have the will to get it done.
Once you take your office, I hope that you will get all these people to talk to each other and set up a central system.
Oh, yeah.
Because I see people fall through the cracks from A, B, C, D, and E choices, and the other people that don't know. And like you said, the people that have great ideas that are hands-on there in these places, that's where the answers really are, right here where all the people are working from the ground up, and that the administration, you don't feel, has been as responsive to that and really using maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, that's what I'm hearing. They're not using the people in their employ as well as they could, and empower them to use their heart and be able to put get more output because they know things they need better.
Yeah, I see a lot. Being a county worker, I see a lot of disconnect in decisions being made and decisions that need to be made. And a lot of times you see something happening and you wonder, like, why did they do that? It doesn't make any sense. And maybe they have a perfectly good reason for it, or maybe they don't. But without the communication back and forth as a two-way street, I mean, if people don't understand why choices are being made, then they're not involved, they're not engaged. And if they're not involved and engaged, it sets in a tone of apathy, low morale. And in the process of running the county, you don't want low morale. You want county workers that are that want to do more for the people, and not because I'm their boss or because I'm telling them to, but because most county workers are not transient. They live here, they want to retire for the county. It's not a high-paying job like an executive hotel salary or anything. You're doing it as a public servant because you're invested in this community that we live in. And so, if you're going to live here for the rest of your life, you're going to raise your kids here, you're going to retire for the county and continue on and speak as a retired county worker, it's in everybody's best interest to have a thriving community that we live and work in. And if you have 2,000 plus workers on the same page that they want Maui County to be the best place to live and work for the residents here, I think we can do it. If they trust their leader and if they buy into what the leader is doing, then there's no boundaries, and the thing about it is that it's not a 4-year thing. Mayors or directors that set up their department the way that they want, in opposition to the way the front lines want it, they have the power to do that. They can set it up any way they want, regardless of how the front lines feel. But the front lines guys know 4 years is all I gotta listen to this guy, or 8 years and then he's gone and I got someone else coming in and telling me how to go.
What are they doing over here, you think? It sounds like they're chewing up wood. Like they're building. I guess they're building here. We are here in Olawala. The nature of our island is changing. I remember when this was hard to get to, and now it's been state, I guess, for a while. Olawala is changing. Any things you see with highway? I've heard all kinds of things about 2-story highway, elevated highway, no cost to build a highway. Have you gotten into some of this stuff?
The general plan, the Maui Island plan, the countywide policy plan, the communities plan is the model that I would be following. It's not for me necessarily to direct how Maui goes, and that's why the people of Maui years back in their wisdom created this general plan process. The problem with it is the last one for West Maui, at least 1990, wasn't followed in its it wasn't
intent?
Yeah, in its intent, because the wording wasn't strong enough, and it's near impossible to put in all the details that you want in order for the intent of the plan to be followed. And so I think it's really important that you have an administration that realizes what the intent of the plan is and follows the intent as well as the wording. And
Do you feel that's going on now? Do you feel, you ran for mayor for change, or what was your reason that you ran?
Well, I think the general plan has been looked at as just a document that sits on the shelf,
I see.
and it hasn't, the capital improvements and that portion of it hasn't been taken seriously enough. There's been a lot of gutting done at the administrative level as well as the council level of the will of the people, which I feel is really sad. The only community plans that have really been worked on thus far, I believe, are Molokai and Lanai. And from what I've heard, West Maui is next. And the way they create the community plan committee is, I think that each council member gets to appoint one member from the community, and then the mayor gets about 4 picks or something like that. And so that's another reason, seeing that in the future, I would like to pick, real representatives of the community, people that everybody knows of and knows of the work that they do and their reputation. Because a lot of times you'll see a developer's representative put on a community, or really polarized members put on the community. And maybe if I run for mayor and I don't get in, then people will at least know that I'm representative of the community, and I would love to be on the West Maui community if not mayor.
Well, I want to say you're David and Goliath. You're playing David. You're trying to take out a giant here he's ahead in money. He is known 3 islands. I love when Akaku calls Kaho'olawe the 4th island, but not many voters there. But, so he has a big advantage. So probably, in my opinion, you're voicing a strong recommendation by running for mayor. Would that be, obviously you're very ill-funded, right? Meaning you didn't go for the big money.
Yeah.
So you can't afford a $50,000 Grand Wailea a night, right?
Can't afford it.
Right. So.
Well, also I would really like to talk about some of the issues that we face as a county.
Right.
We're facing $100,000 a day fines because of the Federal Clean Water Act violation at the Lahaina injection wells. And the environmental management came out with a viewpoint maybe within the last week that they're gonna shut down the landfills, and they're gonna an hour earlier, and they're gonna shut down trash collection on holidays starting August 1st, because they don't want to be subject to these fines. And there's no word coming down about the biggest fine that we're facing, up to hundreds of millions of dollars for violating the Federal Clean Water Act, when all they needed to do was, back when they were working with the community groups, apply for this National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, an NPDES permit. They maintained they didn't have to. They did their own study by dropping dye into the Lahaina injection wells, and the study proved that the effluent was coming out in the nearshore water, so they kind of disproved their own theory for the people that...
You know what that means? That means that these injection wells have been polluting the waters. We take, you know it so well, you speak it fluently, but basically what it says is, over the last, I don't want to say 20 years, as long as we know, we've been drinking the Kool-Aid, people.
Well, you live and learn. Maybe back in those days they didn't think it was a problem. And the difference with Lahaina injection wells versus, say, injection wells on Hawaii Island is they're shallow injection wells. The ones in Hilo, I believe, go down hundreds of feet, and these are like 30 feet injection wells. So that's a major factor. But it's a bigger issue than that. If you look at the holistic, water is an important resource on Maui that we are not abundant in, and this water can be used instead of injected and polluting. If you treat it, possibly use it to water crops or things like that. I know Steve Karabekolai, the former supervisor of Lahaina, he shared with me some of his plans to get to reuse. And it's difficult to be 100% reuse 100% of the time. But if you're not even starting the process, I don't know what to say. That's why you're facing $100 million of fines. And it's not just Arakawa, it's all of us. The people of Maui County, our tax dollars is going to go to the U.S. Treasury. And not only that, but the problem still needs to be fixed. So not only...
Get that part. That's the big part.
Yeah.
It's got to be fixed.
Not only $500,000 already wasted on a mainland attorney fighting this case, hundreds of millions going to the U.S. Treasury, Plus, we still need to fix the problem, which would have been much better if we started 6 years ago, started fixing the problem. And I've watched video of Arakawa stating that it's ludicrous not to utilize that resource, but then when he gets in office, he doesn't utilize that resource. So I don't know if that makes him ludicrous or what. But it's not
Alan,
a good situation.
I think I'm being a little bit nasty here today. It's not really nasty. I just see a few things. That's a real good question. I mean, why aren't we dealing with this? If you are the mayor, which, you know, if Davy here can knock off Goliath, I'm sure she'd hire you as an assistant to help her, right? You probably hire him. But
Steve Carabacula or
Alan Arakawa, if you become mayor, would you still hire him as your assistant? He seems to work well with these people.
I'd have to look at all the applicants and make a decision based on
So
that.
remember that you can apply. Your role as mayor, that's a really big one. You are steering this ship. You feel up for that job?
I do, based on the three main points of the job, you know, you
1,
gotta
2, and 3.
yeah, come up with a realistic budget proposal, and that's not me working on my own. That leads us to our second one, which is appointing qualified, well-educated people that are a good fit. So, you know, I'd love to bring back Calvert Young should Abercrombie not advance past the primary. You know, he was a great budget guy from Maui Mayor. I really respect him. You know, so that's part of it. Is I know I'm not experienced, and I think that is better than thinking you are experienced. Because if you take another kind of controversial issue, the old Wailuki post office demolition. With all that experience that the mayor has, with all the experience of his executive staff, they didn't follow the protocols and procedures, and that's why we're at the point where we're investigating the situation right now. You know, the county charter clearly states anytime that you demolish county property, there needs to be a resolution. And I think that's the point where the people can weigh in on what you want to demolish through the resolution process. You know, he said he was communicating with the council and he thought everyone was on board with the demolition of the post office. But, you know, communicating is one thing and following the proper procedures and protocols is another. And that wasn't done. There was never a budget amendment to change from rehabilitation to demolition. There was never a resolution to demolish county property. And that's something that I would expect from somebody with as much experience as he and his staff have. And if we're not utilizing that experience to not make these types of mistakes, then what is the good of the experience? You know, and I'm not saying that people are not allowed to make mistakes, but it's living and learning from the mistakes and ensuring to the people that they trust that it's not going to happen again. So, you know, we're still waiting for the results of the county auditor's investigation into that. But, you know, should a mistake be made in misuse of county funds or not spending it for what it was budgeted for, I would like the person that makes the mistake to say, these are the exact steps that I've been taking to ensure that this never happens again. You know, money is allotted for various things. It has to be used for what it's allotted for, and this is the process that we're going to go through from now on to ensure that this type of thing never happens again, that steps don't get skipped, that process gets followed, and I don't feel that that's happened. You know, there was a middle of mistake, and there was no, he kind of didn't want an investigation into it to happen. He, at that point, he issued a block on communication. That was his first time he issued a block on communication. Just recently, there was another block on communication between the administrative staff and the council.
What does that mean? I'm going to put this off for a second because of where we're like. We're going to switch out of the sun.
So you asked about the block on...
The communication block. I thought that was a really important... Those are big words.
From what I understand, last month, the middle of June, a memo was issued and there was to be no direct communication from the council services, and like that, with the mayor's staff, the directors. He wants all communication to be funneled through the mayor's office to be either approved by himself, the mayor, or the managing director. And in this day and age where we have, change happening so fast and communications happening so fast and social media being so pervasive, it's just not realistic. We have council members that are learning about things that the administration is doing from the general public. And that, to me, makes the county look like they don't know what's going on. If they need to learn what's going on from the public instead of everyone's in the county building but there's no communication going on. And I said this in another interview, that fear of miscommunication is not a reason to stop communication altogether. And that was the reason that he gave for the memo, is that there was a fear of miscommunication, people getting incorrect information or not the whole story. And the way I see it, if you have that fear, then you need to train your cabinet or your executive staff how to communicate clearly, not block them from communicating. It doesn't make sense that only the mayor and the managing director are capable of communicating clearly. These directors are making over $100,000 salaries. You think simple communication with the council and their staff should be well within their purview of things that they're able to do.
I'm very concerned about what we said originally, that things are sort of put on the back shelf.
Mm-hmm. Well, in empowering the community, if that's what they want, and there's already plan and groundwork being laid, that's wonderful. If the community says, hey, we had an idea for a parking lot in Wailuku, whatever happened to that? Go back if the plans are still there.
Well, you know what I'm talking. There was Kimo Apana, then Alan Arakawa, then Charmaine, then Alan Arakawa. This was way back Kimo Apana time. So look, we've gone a long ways. So I'm hoping that something fresh is going to happen, whether we stay with the same regime or if you don't prevail in this next election. I hope that you are appointed for West Maui.
Community plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
And I'd like to know that people like you are going to have the courage to stand up and do this. And I took a 20-year route and really never stayed in politics, but I hope that whatever happens, you stay with finger on the fire here, because I think it's very, very important.
I have young kids, and I want them to grow up and be able to make a way in Maui County, and so that's my motivation right now. Before I had kids, I was always fighting for the environment, for future generations, before I even had my own kids. And now that it's a reality with my own kids, I'm really concerned about the future, that they're going to grow up in Maui. Will they have opportunity to have a job that doesn't only support them but helps or allows them to enhance Maui County or wherever they choose to live? And I think part of that is training our youth to be the leaders of Maui County, because people will always want to come here, they'll want to live here, they'll want to vacation here, but I think we need to instill our youth that grow up here that they need to be the leaders of Maui County because of their intimate knowledge of the history of Maui and just the conditions, the weather, and the culture. Whether or not they're Hawaiian, it's something that's unique about Maui County, and I really want all our kids that grow up here to realize how special it is and to speak out for Maui County, because they will be the future leaders. And it's nothing against folks that move to Maui County that they can't be the leaders as well, but you really need to be grounded in Maui County.
Island style.
Island appropriate, yeah. And I mean, a lot of times people come in with great ideas that are not island appropriate, and so we need our kids not to just, tell them in a mean way or in a way that's condescending that it's not appropriate, but give them the tools so that they can explain why it's not appropriate for Maui in a way that doesn't exclude anybody, and just, try to lay it out for them, whether it's a safety factor or whatever the reason, but be able to work with people and come to a win-win solution. That's the bottom line.
Recently, I just know I really thought it was important to mention. You mentioned culture in Hawaiian. The Department of Interior came over here for the federal government, and all these many look on as splinter Hawaiian groups all came together in a magnificent way to express they are the Hawaiian people and this is their kingdom. And I'm not going to bring the show to that, but any feeling about that? That's a possible transition, or is there anything that we can do to better serve our Hawaiian community here in Maui County?
Well, in a nutshell, it comes down to authentic, community-based economic development. We need to protect our cultural resources and share them with people in a way that's not cheesy or for the money. We need to do it in a way that perpetuates the culture and that the people are proud. And I think, a lot of that starts with the olelo, the language of Hawaii, and the various protocols. As far as the Hawaiian nation, in a court of international law, I think that's where it needs to be addressed at this time. And I support Hawaii. But it's not to say that, an independent kingdom of Hawaii will not be corrupt. Corruption is something that you need to fight in every political arena. And I think, I'm very thankful that there are people out there fighting for the Hawaiian kingdom. My kuleana, or my privilege and my responsibility is to look at current resources and look at them from the viewpoint of stewardship over self-interest. Regardless if this is America or the state of Hawaii or the kingdom of Hawaii, we have a responsibility to the future generations to take care of this aina or these islands in a way that future generations can experience them and know their culture, whether they're Hawaiian or not, and know the significance behind the plants and the ocean and what's Mauka to Makai, and to really respect and try to perpetuate the way that our ancestors managed land. The ahupua is the land division from the mountain to the sea, in which all the resources of that land division provided for the people. They could find everything they needed within that Mauka to Makai slice. And that will lead us into issues of self-sustainability, food sovereignty, and whatnot. And it's a big issue.
Well, you're running for mayor, and there's so many issues. The one thing that I'm appreciative of is your humility. Meaning, again, I like Alan, very nice guy, but there's this feeling like we know best that I'm very, very concerned about.
I'm concerned as well.
And I'm very concerned and wanting to see change accelerate that I think can only happen by involving the private sector in different ways than the government here is doing.
And to me, the important thing about the private sector is it's the private sector that's based on Maui. We can't have too much of outside influence directing how things will go over here, because they're not invested in it more than money. They don't have the personal stake. If they have a development that they're investing in and it causes all this dirt, brown water runoff, they're not swimming in the water to care about it. They might care about the fines that they get about it, but they don't care about the water quality. So I think, we really need to invest in local community-based economic development. We need to find opportunities to support local business. When it's out-of-county enterprise that comes in, the money goes out of county, and they provide low-level jobs, which people, like you said, need to work 2 to 3 of them, and then they don't get to see their family, and then the family loses connection with the culture because the parents are always working.
And there goes the drug and the alcohol and the problems.
Yeah, so you need to really look at things from a big picture, long range view, and then from there, maybe that's your end in mind, and you step back and say, what kind of things do I need today? What seeds do I plant today so that 20 years from now, the result that I want to see occurs? And it's difficult because it's not the usual. It's not what things people are used to doing, or the way that we've been taught all these years. We're still running off of 19th century management practices, but we're living in the 21st century, and that's the disconnect. We need to change the way that we look at management if we want to continue on in the 21st century. And
that's a powerful way to end this. Is there something other than that? I mean, that's a very powerful thing. We really need to modernize our way of thinking.
Change the mindset, basically, because it's not working. You can see it with all the problems that are flourishing. What the 19th century management model is not appropriate for the 21st century.
Can it be shifted, or would you have to?
I think it can be shifted. We just need to, start doing things differently. And if that means electing a person without any political experience, I'm okay with that.
Thank you guys for joining us. Any things in your platform that you specifically want to share? I know that what I've seen, my shows are not anything, I'm not claiming any political anything, but I'm just someone out here, and I feel people have really wanted to know who's going to be in the office, and are they approachable and available and have common sense. We vote on who waves good and gives us good chicken and rice, and there's probably more to it, but I must tell you, it's we are underserved to have things like this, where someone else can ask questions and ask hard questions, but I'm here just to kind of show who you are.
Well, I think, to sum it up, power in the 21st century is going to be less about control and more about being connected. With the type of transparency and social media going on today, you need to be connected instead of being in control. And we've seen the current mayor's leadership style, and I would call it more one of control. And that is not my leadership style. So I'm of the feeling that no one person is smarter than all of us put together. And in this day and age, we have the technology that allows for mass collaboration, but it's not being used. And so that's what I would like to enable for the county. Mass collaboration, where all of us put together is smarter than any one person alone.
Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know we've probably spoken a good long while.
Hopefully someone sits around
That's
and
right.
watches all of this.
That's the thing. Content is king. You got to see a really terrific lady with great ideas who wants to be our mayor. And I, for one, am thrilled that you have the courage and confidence to come out with new ideas. And no matter who is sitting in the seat, the most important thing is refreshing those ideas and actions.
Yeah.
So that's terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for being here with me.
Hello.
Aloha.